My name is Sam. I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at Fairygodboss. And Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women. Our mission is to improve the workplace by increasing transparency. We offer a ton of great free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and so much more to help you succeed throughout your careers. We will be taking questions throughout the webinar as well as at the end of the webinar. I'd encourage you to leave your questions in the Q&A. You'll find that at the bottom of your screen. And note, you can leave questions as yourself or anonymously, so don't be afraid to ask whatever comes to mind. We're also recording today's webinar, and we will be sending it out in a follow-up email later today. We'll also be posting it to the Fairygodboss site, so if you miss anything, you'll have the chance to rewatch this back. Here with me today is Joanna Lovering. Joanna is an executive presence coach, organizational psychologist, and fashion stylist who helps women develop transformative leadership skills. She earned her MA in social organizational psychology from Columbia University before taking on leadership development roles at Tiffany & Co., JetBlue, and Daily Burn, among others. After accumulating over 10 years of leadership development experience in a mix of corporate and startup settings, she founded Copper and Rise in 2017 to teach women what no one teaches them about leadership. Over the years, she's realized that leveling up in your career isn't just about what you know. Women also have to look, speak, and act like leaders. And that's where executive presence comes in. Thanks so much for being here today, Joanna. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Fairygodboss, you are amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be contributing to this community today. Welcome, ladies, to unlock the power of presence and use it to wow others on Zoom. All right. Well, as Sam mentioned, I am the founder of the New York City-based executive presence firm Copper and Rise, helping you lead with character, confidence, and style. By the way, where does Copper and Rise come from? Copper is the color of my hair. It's also the type of mug I was drinking a cocktail out of when I was trying to think of names for my company. And rise is rise up in your life. So meet Copper and rise up. I want you to know that executive presence is something that wasn't always on my mind. I knew what it was, but I thought that just being me was totally okay, which, by the way, being me is okay. And executive presence is about tweaking the me for my audience. My example is this, and my kind of founding story is this. I was, as Sam mentioned, working at a corporate job. I have to say, my favorite job that I've ever had. I loved working at this company, household name that you have heard of. I had a great job and I loved the work. I was there for 3 years. And everything was going swimmingly. And then I hit my yearly performance evaluation. And my manager told me I got great reviews on everything competence-based, right? So anything that was about my work was great. And then I got some constructive feedback about how I was performing the work, how I was showing up in a room, and how I was displaying myself to the corporate world. I have to tell you that when I received this feedback, and by the way, I got it all 3 years in a row, I had no idea what to do with that. Honestly, I was crushed. I was utterly crushed because I felt like this is some sort of knock on my personality, on who I am. I like who I am. Why do I have to change? So at that point, after 3 years of the same feedback, I had two options. The first option was conform and be their version of their corporate robot. The second option was leave. Forget it. I'm out. I'm going to find another company that really appreciates who I am. What I didn't realize was that I actually had a third option. And now in hindsight, I know it. But the third option was that if I were to tweak my behaviors in certain situations with certain audiences so that I came off in a positive light, I could be me and come off positively, and every once in a while be the version of me that they wanted me to be. I have options, I have choices. It's not about changing who I am, it's about just tweaking behaviors. So that's what executive presence is. Today, I'm really excited that I'm going to share with you my top tips for how to speak, how to act, and how to look in order to come off with confidence and authority and trust. I totally skipped over this slide, but yes, thank you, Samantha, for saying that I have worked with some amazing companies that you have heard of, also some amazing companies that you haven't heard of, all within roles in the world of leadership development. I also want you to know, I'm going to put this slide at the end, but I put it at the beginning because I know that everyone can't stay for the entire time. So just letting you know that I have a free resource that will really help you apply everything that you learned today. It's a free checklist, and in order to get it, you need to text COPPER to 66866. Just so you know, you can do that now or later, but text COPPER to 66866. All right. Here is my first question to everyone. I am going to lob this question out to you. Make sure in the chat your answers are open to both panelists and attendees. Change that little blue bar, panelists and attendees. And I'd like everyone to answer in the chat for me. How do you want people to perceive you on Zoom? And I'm talking specifically about professional Zooms here. I realize that we're often meeting with friends and family too. But on your professional Zooms, how do you want other people to perceive you? Go ahead, write it in the chat. Oh my gosh, it's already coming in. It's already coming in. All right. A subject matter expert and approachable, Kimberly says. Confident, says Eileen. We've got Celeste, enthusiastic, confident. Rosalie says smart. Maria says professional, confident, and competent. Crystal, a source of knowledge, approachable. Keep it going, everybody. This is awesome. Sarah Brown says engaged. Ooh, Philippa Moore, yes, says good hair and cheekbones. Yes, okay. I love it. Renee, competent, confident, and professional. Leisha Lacey says approachable. This is great. Okay, so what I'm seeing, wow, this is going on and on. I'm so thrilled. Deborah says professional but approachable. Not to use too many ums. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. And Arlene says vital. Yes. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing from the chat. I'm just going to boil it down into some common threads that I'm seeing. I'm seeing one common thread over here that's kind of the competence bubble. So I want people to know that I really know my stuff. I'm an expert, I'm on the ball, I'm current, and I've got the information that you need. That's what I'm seeing here first, number one. And then the other bubble common thread that I'm seeing is that you want people to find that you're a good person to work with. There's a soft element to working that you want to be approachable, you want to be friendly, you want to be a team player. So those are the two. I mean, there are some other things here. Michelle, you just said rock star sales. Yes, you are a rock star. I love it. But yeah, there are these two common threads that I'm seeing. It's around the competence thing. I know my stuff, and I'm approachable. I just realized I'm doing wax on, wax off. You're welcome, everybody. All right. So by the way, you're not alone. This is very common for all of the webinars that I do. This whole approachable, thank you, Rosie. I love your personality. Thank you. I'll send you your money later. Okay, here's my second question then. If we want to be perceived as both competent and approachable, what are the barriers that you're facing with Zoom? So in particular with Zoom, what's the biggest challenge you face in order to be perceived that way? Specifically on Zoom. Go ahead, write that in the chat. Deborah says reading body language. I got another body language. Love this. Body language, yes, got it, yes. Small talk, friendly banter before the meeting is tough. I agree. I hate being on camera, says Megan. I hear you. Your eyes get exhausted. Technology issues. Yes, there's so many. Keep it going. Keep it going. Marika said confidence. Love it. People looking checked out, Carla says. It's hard to keep people engaged, Eileen. Yes, yes, distracted people. Lynn says people just are distracted. Love this. Feeling like a grade school teacher the entire time, Erica. I hear ya. I hear ya. Marika, getting distracted by other screens. Yep. Interruptions, Arzu. Where should my eyes be focused? Ooh, we're going to talk about that. I'm very excited you said that. All right. Not being comfortable on screen, not sure how engaged the audience is. Okay. Maintaining good eye contact. And why should someone attend my Zooms? Competition. Well, Arlene, don't forget, you know your stuff. But we're going to talk about how to keep people engaged, even when you're presenting to a blank void. Because by the way, I know what it's like. Right now, I see my screen, I have the chat open, and I see myself in the corner. Womp womp. I mean, I know I look nice, but I would much rather see you. So we need to employ some tried and true behaviors, scientific based behaviors that will help your audience stay engaged. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you, Maridula. How to keep people engaged. It's as though you have seen this presentation before. Thank you. All right. So here's the thing, everybody. HBR, Harvard Business Review, put out a survey a number of years ago, but it's still very relevant, with North American leaders. Half of those North American leaders said that looking and acting like a C-suite executive, rather than qualifications, contributed to promotions for management positions. Are you kidding me? I have to tell you that there's a part of me that hates that. Because let me tell you what, my master's degree from Columbia University was very expensive. So you're telling me, Marie Dula, I tried. So wait, you're telling me that looking and acting like an executive is more important than what's on my resume? That's a real downer to me because I have spent many, many years perfecting my craft. Now, half of the people said that. Half of the people said that. So the other half still think your resume is very important, but I bet that half of the people that said that, I bet you work for some of them. So what does this say to me? What it says is that we need to study executive presence just as much as technical competence. Technical competence meaning how great of a designer are you? How great of a lawyer are you? That's what I mean. So I'm really glad you're all here because like I said, you're going to learn my top tips for executive presence. But of course, there's more opportunity to work with me later, which I will tell you in a little bit. Okay, but what is executive presence? Well, I break executive presence down into 3 pillars: how you speak, how you act, and how you look. Those are the 3 pillars: speak, act, and look. Or in other words, communication, influence, and style. All in an effort to convey authority, trust, and confidence. Now I'm going to give you a little secret here. Something very cool about executive presence, which is it's a set of behaviors that you can tweak and you can practice over time. And you can convey authority, trust, and confidence, even if you're not feeling it yourself. That's what I love about executive presence. If you're feeling that imposter syndrome that many of us have felt, you can still display certain behaviors that will indicate to other people that you're not an imposter. And then over time, you will work to bridge that gap. I know you will. But that is something that's so cool. Executive presence, it's more about how other people perceive you rather than how you perceive yourself. I want those things to be bridged. I do, but sometimes they're not. So I just wanted you to know that. I love that about executive presence. So we want to convey trust, authority, confidence, competence, all of those things. But the problem is that we're all on these Zoom calls and there is a myriad of barriers. We already wrote so many of them. There's so many that they go off the page. So how do I display and practice executive presence when there are so many barriers? Here's how. What I'd like you all to do now is just cross your arms, just like this beautiful lady here. Just cross your arms. Now, I can't see you, but I'm trusting you. We're in the circle of trust now. The Fairygodboss circle of trust, and you are crossing your arms. Okay, I'm crossing my arm. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about this experience of crossing my arms. I promise this will make sense. So I just crossed my arms. I really didn't have to think about it. I've crossed my arms a million times in the past. And it didn't take a lot of energy for me, physical energy, mental energy. It was pretty easy for me. Okay. Now what I'd like you to do is cross your arms the other way. Don't mind the banging. My neighbor is renovating. It's really great when you're working from home. Okay, you've crossed your arms the other way. Now, I have to tell you, I have done this webinar 20, 30 times at this point. And every single time when I have to figure out how to cross my arms the other way, it takes some energy. It takes some thought. I literally have to think about it. And the reason why I have you go through this exercise is because this uncomfortable feeling, this is what it's like to practice behavior tweaks. It's a little uncomfortable at first. It takes some mental energy and some physical energy. It does. But over time, it gets easier. And no matter if it's easy or hard, you can still do it. It just might take some extra energy. All right, you can shake out your arms. Thank you very much for playing. I appreciate it. So I promise you that executive presence is not about changing who you are, like I thought in my story, or being fake, or having charisma, or being an extrovert. Executive presence is about skills that you can practice, not about ability, because ability is binary. Ability is you can or you can't. But a skill is something that is probably going to be hard in the beginning. And then over time, you practice and it becomes easier. That's what executive presence is. So, are you ready? I'm going to assume that you're saying yes to me. So I'm going to get down into the depths of my top tips of executive presence. Here we go. And we're first going to start with the first pillar, how to speak. Ladies, the number one most important thing that you need to remember when it comes to speaking on Zoom is eliminating filler words. You know what they are. The ums, the uhs. So make sense, right? Like just don't do it. But how? I've been using filler words my whole life. Well, first we have to recognize that we use filler words because they serve us in some way, right? By the way, right? That's one of my favorite filler words. But we wouldn't display a behavior unless it helps us in some way. So filler words do help us. They help us figure out what to say next. They help us keep the floor. A lot of us do not like silence. I don't like silence. And we think faster than we speak. So filler words help us bridge the gap. The problem is that even though those filler words do help us, we can be perceived in a way that we don't intend. So what I want to do is keep the how they serve us bullet points and eliminate those negative perception, possible perception bullet points. Here's how we do it. First, we need to slow down. Slow down our speech. Now, I have to tell you something. I am a Jersey redheaded Italian woman, and I can speak a mile a minute. It is a skill that I have perfected since I could speak. Okay. And during these webinars, I have to make sure that I speak slower so you can take in what I'm saying. You know when my sentences begin and end. And I don't use filler words. We think at about 100. Oh, wait, sorry. I said that wrong. We have the ability to speak at about 150 words per minute. However, we need to integrate at about 120 words a minute. So we don't have to slow down all the way. We just have to slow down a little bit. Here's a great trick as to how to do that. It's a quick exercise that you can do on your own that just involves typing. I'm going to just show it to you really quickly. Now, just so you know, I took a typing test right before I built this slide. I type at about 85 words a minute. So that's a big difference. 85 words a minute versus the 150 words a minute I can speak. So I'm going to get out of sharing mode. Yes. And here's the typing exercise. This is all you need to do. If you know what sentence you need to say, you're going to type it and say it at the same time. Hi, my name is Joanna Lovering, and I am an executive presence coach. I'm so happy to be here with Fairygodboss. All right. Now, that is probably about 80 words per minute or so. I can speak doubly as fast almost. Now, I'm not saying speak that slowly. Hi, my name is Joanna Lovering. No. But if we swing the pendulum to the slower side, then we can meet somewhere in the middle. So the typing exercise is actually really helpful just to get your mouth and brain used to saying things slowly. And then you can increase it inch by inch from there. Okay, so that is the first way to eliminate filler words. Sorry about the renovations. Okay, the second piece, the second trick I have for you is pretty simple. It's pause. I say that it seems simple, but I know that pauses are really tough because so many of us do not like silence. So, my best tip for getting used to pauses is take a sip. Take a sip. Taking a sip is a great way for you to have a pause, but you're also actively doing something so you don't feel really weird. You can even take a sip and make a little noise so that people don't jump in, right? So you can be, You know, I had my finger up like, Bob, you're not jumping in, Bob. I'm just drinking some water, Bob. We all have a Bob. I know we all have a Bob. So taking a sip. Yes, that's a great way to practice pausing. Pausing really helps the listener integrate what you're saying. It helps you say the last thing before the pause with impact. See what I did there? So listen, a normal person's pause is between half a second and 1 second. Fine. Someone who does like a public speaking on the reg, like a TED talker, maybe 2 to 3 second pauses. And I'm talking real seconds, right? Like Mississippi seconds. People like Tony Robbins and Oprah, they have been known to do pauses for up to 7 seconds. I will say that seems like an eternity to me, but they have a lot of power in that room. So their pauses can be longer. So that's what I have to say to you, is that the length of your pauses is proportionate to how much formal power you have in that room, whether it is because of your level in the organization or if it is your presentation. Like, for instance, I could sit here and pause for 10 seconds, and I have a feeling that if you could unmute yourself, I realize that you cannot, but if you could, you probably wouldn't anyway, because this is my presentation. Maybe Samantha, you would, because you'd be wondering what was going on. But the more power you have in that context, the longer your pauses can be. I'm sure we are afraid of interruptions, though. And so I'm going to talk about that at the end, just so you know. I'm going to give you a little bonus about interruptions. But if you use take a sip, and maybe make a little motion, a gesture, that will probably indicate to someone that you have something else to say. All right, so that's take a sip to incorporate pauses. Everyone, those are my top 2 tips for how to eliminate filler words, which is the number one thing that I work on with clients when it comes to speaking for executive presence. I'm going to take a quick pause, looking at the time. Yes, I'm going to take a quick pause. And because I haven't been looking at the chat, I'm curious from Samantha, whether in the chat or in Q&A, are there any questions that I can answer specifically about eliminating filler words?
There actually are. Thank you. I didn't want to jump in, as you mentioned. But Arlene had a question here. She wants to know, are you talking about doing this during a job interview, during a Zoom meeting? She says, is it okay to do these techniques during an interview, or will it, I think her assumption is, will it make me look unprofessional?
No, quite the opposite. Listen, pauses in particular, if they are intentional, right? I'm not talking about a pause where you're like shuffling papers, looking for the thing, right? No. I'm talking about a pause that is very intentional because you want the thing that you just said to land. No, quite the opposite of unprofessional. You will come off with confidence, like you are Superwoman. Don't forget, executive presence is all about confidence, authority, and trust. What better way to show that you hold the floor, that you have confidence, if you don't say anything for half a second? Go ahead, Samantha. Next question.
That was it, actually. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, everyone. I'm going to jump into pillar number 2 of executive presence, which is how you act. How you act is all about influencing the other people around you so that everyone feels like a winner, especially through conflict. So everyone feels seen, feels heard, feels important. The number one thing you need to do in order to influence others positively, especially on Zoom, is display affirming gestures. Yes, display affirming gestures. How many Zoom calls have you been on that look like that? P.S. I just want you to know I don't know these people. I found this picture on the internet. I do not know these people. Quick story. At the beginning of the pandemic, probably May or June or so, I decided that I would start dating virtually. I went on a first date with a gentleman who clearly had 2 monitors set up. One monitor had me and the other monitor had his camera. So if his camera was here, right in front here, I was on his other monitor here. So the entire date, I saw this man in profile. And I have to tell you, it was the most painful date, be it virtual or not, that I have ever been on in my life. He did not pass go, he did not collect $200, and he did not get a second date from me. So, not looking at me in the camera was not an affirming gesture, right? This was, I felt ignored actually the whole time. And that probably wasn't his intention. That's what kills me. It wasn't his intention, but man, did it put a bad taste in my mouth. So, okay, we know that affirming gestures are easier in person because we do them automatically, because they keep us focused. They show respect, acknowledges everyone else's presence, and it shows that we're really interested in what they're saying. I'm talking about the nods. I'm talking about thumbs up. I'm talking about mm-hmm. And the problem is that if we don't display those gestures, people are going to think that we're nervous, we're distracted. Is she on her phone? Is she not confident? That's not necessarily the case. You could just be looking at your second monitor, for God's sake, but you can't help how other people are going to perceive you. So we need, again, to keep those left-hand bullet points and get rid of the right-hand ones. Keep the serves us, because that's a good thing, and get rid and mitigate the risks of those possible perceptions. How do we do that? The first way is to look directly into the camera. And friends, this has taken me years to perfect. I just want you to know. Looking into the camera is so weird. It's so hard. And it is a skill that you can practice. Because let me tell you what, if on that first date, that gentleman was looking into the camera, I would have felt seen. I would have felt like he's interested in me. So how can we practice looking into the camera? There's a few things we can do. The first is to elevate your computer's camera so that it is at eye level. This makes it a lot easier for you to, I'm doing this because my camera's at eye level. I mean, how many Zoom calls are you on where people are looking down at you because their laptop is on the table and they are taller than that, right? First of all, that's not a great look. But also, there's an element of that person is looking down at me. I don't like that. There's a yuckiness there. So whether you buy something expensive, like on the left, or you have a pile of books or a box, I don't care. I just want you to know, I have been doing this webinar since March. I've been using the same box. This is a box from the liquor store. Now you know how I've been getting through COVID. And high school yearbooks. It's the most use those high school yearbooks have had since high school. So elevate your camera so that it is at eye level. Also, if this is your Zoom call here, my recommendation is for you to reduce the zoom window so that your eyes don't move around the screen as much. So if I need to look at, again, I don't know these people, just so you know. If I need to look at Casey Cunningham on the bottom right there, I am going to have to move all the way down here. Take a look at me, all the way down here to look at him, as opposed to just looking here. So that distance has decreased significantly just because I made the window smaller. Last but not least, folks, this is not rocket science, but I'm telling you, this has saved my clients and I in a huge way. It's a Post-it note. Get yourself a Post-it note and put it right next to the camera. Guess what? I have one right now. And I actually put slow down below it just to remind myself not to, speed through. Yeah, put it right next to the camera. Look, I'm going over the camera just a little bit, right next to the camera. And that is a huge red alert. Look at me, look at me. So at least if I look at the smiley face is really close to the camera, right? Take a look here. I'll even take off my glasses just so you can see. Okay, so here's the camera. I'm looking at you in the camera. Now I'm looking at the smiley face. Camera, smiley face. As opposed to Casey Cunningham where he was. See the difference there? So I'm telling you, this Post-it note is one of the easiest things that you can do. And every single one of my clients have said that they have a Post-it note and it has helped them tremendously. Last, in order to display your affirming gestures, exaggerate your nonverbals. The same nonverbals that you have displayed in in-person meetings, you're going to do it on Zoom and you're going to do it bigger. Why? Because you're this big on my screen. You're tiny. You're in like a 1 by 1.5 rectangle. So if you and Emerald says, kick it up a notch. We're going to kick it up a notch, everybody. Old reference, but I still like it. So if you are a smiler, I want you to smile big. If you are a nodder, nod big. If you like to use the Zoom emojis, I challenge you to do the emojis in person. If the corporate culture of where you work will accept it. Let's put it that way. So you have to think about your audience. But man, I got to tell you, when I'm on a meeting and I see somebody go like this to me, they are my friend. They make me feel so good. I feel validated. I know they're listening. They're automatically my pal. If I see someone nodding, I know they're with me. So do that for other people. Give them that gift. It'll help you stay in the game too. All right. Displaying affirming gestures is the number one biggest thing you need to do in order to influence people positively. Before I move on to the last pillar, I want to know from Samantha, any questions that I can answer now?
Quite a few actually came in.
Okay.
Stephanie has a question just about what you were talking about. Can the nods and all of those nonverbals be perceived as you didn't really hear what was said, but you're nodding just to make people sure that you're listening?
Yes. So what's the question?
Like, can they be perceived as you're not actually listening and you're just pretending to listen?
Oh, well, maybe. But that sounds like a good story. I don't know. That seems like a little bit of a stretch. I mean, let's put it
I
this
do think
way.
it's the context.
Yeah, I think it's the context. And I would rather see people
Yeah.
nodding than not nodding. I remember
That's true.
my senior year of high school, my history teacher, AP US history, I'll never forget. He used to he used to call us in the class when he was angry with us, he would call us cardboard cutouts. You all are acting like cardboard cutouts of yourselves. Why? Because we would just sit there and not move and not react. And it would frustrate him. So I would rather someone at least nod or smile than not. Let's put it that way.
That's fair. Another question kind of on this same topic, and it came in for Wendy, Arlene, and I think I saw somebody else say something similar, but they're concerned that their grand gestures are too much. And Wendy kind of echoed this. She said, what if you're already a bit over enthusiastic for some people's taste?
Well, you have a choice there. Good. P.S. By the way, this Jersey Italian, I talk with my hands. I get it. So you have a choice. Or maybe I can put this another way. Maybe I'll put this another way because I have experienced this myself. I really have. You have the choice as to whether or not you want to damper those expressions. But I will say this. There is nothing worse than walking around this world being someone else. I'm sorry, but there is nothing harder than that. So I would rather, and this is my opinion, I would rather be myself than not be myself. Now, part of being myself is talking with my hands. But you know what, too? Another part of being myself is serious, Joanna. I can display a wide range of personas that are within me. So maybe it's just that you get the choice to choose a different persona that's already within yourself, which is maybe a little bit less handsy. If you think that won't drive you nuts and make you feel inauthentic, because that's number one. That's what I'll say. I could talk about that, Samantha. I could talk about that for an entire webinar, which, by the way, just so you all know, this Thursday, I have a free presence roundtable where conversations like this come up all the time. If you text Copper to 66866, you'll get an invitation to that free roundtable, just so you know.
Perfect.
Any
and then
other
I have
questions,
one more
Samantha?
question. Yep, one more from Lily, and then we'll get going on the last section here. Lily wants to ask, how do you look at the camera and not miss the expressions and nonverbals of your audience? And I think the better question almost is, how do you find the balance between the two?
Yeah. So it has to be a balance for sure. I would say in general, when you are speaking, especially doing a presentation like this, I can't see you guys anyway, but especially when you are speaking, look into the camera as much as you can. When someone else is speaking, you can look at them. You can look into the camera, and in your periphery, you can see other people moving around. Maybe not on all pages, I realize. It takes a little bit of multitasking, but you will, when you are speaking, you will be able to see someone nodding or someone smiling. I've done it all the time. It takes some practice. But yes, the balance is when you're speaking, look into the camera. When you're not speaking, you can look around.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Friends, we are going into the last section, which is how you look. Now, I just want to let you know, this is my special creative bag of tricks because Copper and Rise actually started as a fashion styling firm. So I'm really passionate about how you look. I'm very passionate about the other stuff too, but this is kind of my creative outlet. So I have 3 ways to really come off with competence and confidence, all about how you look. And all it is that you need to reduce distractions, because you are the star of the show, not what you're wearing, not what's behind you on that bookshelf. Man, do I have a story about reading all the books on somebody's bookshelf, and I got to a really weird book. But anyway, that's for another time. So we need to reduce distractions, and there's 3 ways to do that. The first is, for those of us who like to accessorize, we're going to wear one significant accessory, because I pity the fool who allows their accessories to take over. But for instance, and again, I don't know this person, but Tim Gunn from Project Runway would say, this is a lot of look. This is a lot of look. We've got earrings. We've got a scarf. We've got 2, maybe 3 necklaces and a ring. I would posit that anyone on this woman's Zoom is going to be really distracted by everything that's going on her neck. So, one accessory, one significant accessory. Yes, glasses count. Yes, glasses count, especially if the glasses are like mine, thick and very noticeable. So if I were to wear earrings with this, I would wear small stud earrings, not a big chandelier drop earring, right? Notice that I'm wearing a very small necklace that you probably can't even see, because this is my significant accessory. Okay? A significant accessory can be a statement necklace, like bigger earrings or a headband or a hat, whatever's appropriate. But one significant accessory so other people don't get distracted. You also want to wear more muted earth tone colors that are solid. I am afraid on camera of patterns in print. And let me tell you what, I am a print person. I love print. But I'll tell you why we need to stick to solid colors. First of all, look at this beautiful lady. All I see here is her beautiful smile, her eyes, her hair, her top, particularly because of the color of the top, just kind of falls away. Yes, I know it's an olive mossy green, but it just I don't really notice it. It isn't distracting, which is very important. So solid muted colors that I really like for camera are all here. By the way, I had a great time coming up with these names. I felt like I was, I don't know, I felt like I was a color scientist at a nail polish company or something, I wanted to do something crazy. Anyway, just notice that I'm not talking about wearing dark colors. What I am talking about is wearing colors that are not saturated, or maybe you've heard the term jewel tones. We're not going to wear jewel tones. Why? Because let me tell you what, if you were my client and you were going to do a TED Talk, you would wear a jewel tone, no doubt about it, and especially red, because there's actually a lot of science behind how red can help our brain waves. But on camera, the reason is because, frankly, because our cameras are really low quality. We do not have the HD cameras that they have on TV sets. And these cameras have a really hard time dealing with saturated color. Take a look, for instance, at Samantha Bee. This was when the pandemic first started. I took this picture with a good iPhone. This is the iPhone 11, not the most recent one. And I have a good TV. I promise I have a good TV. Take a look at this bright orangey red. This is like the worst color you can wear on television. I'm shocked that her stylist allowed her to wear this. But she was not in the TV studio. She was, I believe, in her backyard. And look, it's like the color is radiating off of her. You also have a really hard time seeing the lapels. So there is something about these low quality cameras that cannot handle saturated colors, especially oranges and reds. I also have to tell you something, ladies. I'm a New Yorker and I'm really sorry, but black is not a good color for camera. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know half of my closet is black too. I know. But take a look at our beautiful lady here. You have no idea whether she is wearing a blazer or a blanket. I can't see the seams. I'm even looking around. I can't see the seams. I can't see the like the wrinkles. I have no idea. Thank goodness she's wearing that gray tee, or else she just would have looked like a black blob with a floating head, especially because her hair is dark. So black just makes you look like like a black blob. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Also, be careful of patterns that are high contrast. Take a look at our lady on the left. I got to tell you, talk about distractions. All I see is that black and white polka dot. I'm not even looking at her face. And then on the right here, we have something called the Mayor effect, or if you speak French, which I do not, I think they pronounce it the Mayor effect, I believe. But that's when thin, high contrast stripes look like a magic eye puzzle. So be careful of that as well. I would say if you were to wear a pattern, wear one that is not high contrast. Wear a pattern that is a small pattern, like a micro floral, with colors that are similar. So again, it falls away. People don't notice it as much. They notice you. You are the star of the show, not what you're wearing. Last but not least, the best way to set yourself up for success is to frame up. Here's what I mean. We're going to take my rectangle here. By the way, this is what newscasters do. Okay. I'm going to take my rectangle here and I'm going to split it into equal horizontal rectangles, 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at myself to make sure. 1, 2, 3. You want to set yourself in the middle of that rectangle, and you want the line from rectangles 1 and 2 to go across your eyes, and the second line between 2 and 3 goes across your throat and collarbone right here. So here and here. Let's practice. All right. Again, I do not know these people. Micah on the left. Let's see what happens. Ooh, no go. He's too low in his frame and he's too close. Nope, Micah, you lose. Yael, my friend, you are centered, but you need to back up a little bit. You're a little too close. Let's take a look at Smiley Admin over here. Beautiful Admin. Okay, if her head weren't cocked to the side, her eyes are in the right place, but she needs to back up a bit because that line is too high. The line needs to be lower, so she needs to back up. And then we've got Marius. Marius is winner, chicken dinner. Because look, he's got the line over his eyes and then the line over his throat. So that is something you can intentionally practice that will just help you look like a leader, look like a champ. I love this frame up thing. Nobody tells you about this, by the way. All right. Here, if you're going to take a screenshot, this is the time to take it. This is everything we've talked about, except I have a quick bonus for you, as I mentioned earlier. The bonus is about interruptions, because so many of us have said that a big barrier to Zoom is how many interruptions happen because of the lag time. So my biggest tip to all of my clients and to you is to come up with your interruption armor. What do I mean by that? Interruption armor is a quick phrase that is burned in your brain that you will use over and over again when you are interrupted. You need to make sure that you can come up with it on a dime, because we know that sometimes when we're interrupted, our emotions start to flare up, or at least mine do, but maybe that's because I'm a redhead Italian. I don't know. So interruption armor can be something like, if I may, if I may, or hang on, or if I could finish. But whatever works for you, whatever feels natural to you, it's important that you burn it into your brain and stick it in your toolbox, because you're going to need it every once in a while, just like Kamala did during her debates, right? Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. 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 That was her interruption armor. You need it too. Because it's your time to rise, ladies. It's your time to come off like the leader that you already are and intentionally behave in ways that people perceive you positively. Don't forget to text Copper to 66866 to get your free checklist, for just to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do to prepare for your next Zoom call. On the email, I will be sending an email tonight or tomorrow with the checklist to anyone who texts. There's also an invitation to my free presence roundtable that's happening this Thursday. Just so you know, I hope you can make it. And here is all of my information. I'm going to take questions now. I realize that we have 2 minutes left, so forgive me. But here's my information. Follow me on Instagram, Copper and Rise. Find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you. By the way, that 66866 does not work internationally. I found that out. So just email me here at joanna@copperrise.com and I'll get you that checklist. Don't worry.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joanna. We'll also be including all of this info, Joanna's contact info, and more information about the roundtable in an email along with the recording of today's session. Later today, you'll get it straight in your inbox. You'll also get the recording on the Fairygodboss site where you can access it at any time. So don't worry if you didn't catch it. We'll have it all to you in just a few hours. And we only have time for one question, but I think this is something that wasn't covered, and I would love to hear your answer on it.
Okay.
Question from Margot. Do you have any tips on jumping into a conversation? I have a lot of group brainstorming meetings, and my coworkers move so quickly that by the time I collect my thoughts, the topic has moved on. They're past it already.
Yeah.
I've tried some different strategies with different results, but I would love to hear your thoughts here.
Yes. You know what mine is? It's the same as my interruption armor. I personally, I really like if I may. I don't know. Maybe I'm now a college professor or something, but I really like if I may. And so I use if I may to jump in as well as get someone to jump out. So again, interruption armor. I will also say that another way to jump in is if your company or if the group uses the raise hand, use that. And you can also ask at the beginning of the meeting. And again, this is just according to the culture of your organization, but you can ask at the beginning of the meeting, what's the best way to let you know that I have something to say?
Perfect. Thank you again, Joanna. Thank you, everybody who spent the last hour here with us today. We really appreciate your time. Joanna, do you have any final closing thoughts before I end things today?
I just want you all to remember that you have the power to adjust your behaviors so people see you in a positive light. You are not stuck, just like I thought I was. And this is stuff that you can practice. I hope you can all come to my roundtable so we can talk even more about what to practice. Thank you so much, Fairygodboss, and everyone who came today.
Amazing. Thank you again, Joanna. Thank you everyone who attended, and we will catch you at the next one. Have a great rest of your day and your week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.